Good evening, everyone. It's Pastor Anthony here with your Daily Excellence. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on the channel. It is Tuesday, May 19th. It is 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we are here with another update this week of our EndTimes news update. And these are some of the topics that we're going to be talking about tonight. Some of the headlines, at least, coming up from the news. A big headline that came out within the last 24 hours was the 4 alien species confirmed. Yeah, they're talking about that, and they're talking about it on mainstream news, by the way. Ebola virus outbreak taking place there as a new strain of Ebola has emerged with a higher mortality rate. Health officials are using extreme caution and preparedness. Food inflation reaches record high, especially as we look into tomatoes and beef. We'll talk about that. And then asteroid threat. We have an asteroid that will be coming close to the Earth, closer than our moon, with a small percentage of making an impact, although they're not thinking it will. So we'll look into that article. Of course, there's other articles as we still have the Hantavirus virus that's still going on, taking place, and other stuff too. So a lot of crazy things happening, but these are just some of the topics we're going to discuss tonight as we go into our EndTimes news update. So wild stuff for sure. I mean, we're going to be talking anything from viruses to aliens to asteroids. Almost sounds like a sci-fi movie going on out there, but it's what's in the news, guys. It's just what's in the news. So before we get into all that, of course, we want to make sure that you guys get a chance to do us a huge favor, because we don't get notifications anymore. Those of you who have been following our channel for a long time, you've noticed that when we go live or when a premiere takes place, there's no notifications. You guys don't know. And so what we have to do now is we have to do this manually. So how does that work? It means that you guys have to go out there, get those thumbs up going, share, subscribe, and do all those things to help people know that we're here, help people know that in your feeds, because a lot of you guys, you network behind the scenes, let everyone know that we're on. And of course, when you do that, that kind of generates some traffic our direction and helps build up our live stream tonight. So for those of you out there, I know some of you have Telegram, some of you are on Patreon, some of you guys have those other places. Go ahead and share the link out there. Let everyone know that we're here. We'll take a moment or two to get people into the chat room. Then also, we're going to give our sponsor, EMP Shield, their 60 seconds to do their thing. And then we'll be right back here in just a moment. All right. So we'll be right back.
With over 37 models that can be used around the world, our family of EMP protection devices installs easily in minutes. Being employed this year by federal organizations and electrical companies, the EMP Shield has been tested at Keystone Compliance, a federally approved DoD testing facility. Also serving as one of the world's fastest whole home surge protection devices, working in less than 1 nanosecond, the EMP Shield will protect against electromagnetic pulses, coronal mass ejections, lightning, and all forms of power surges. Proven to withstand more than 40 EMP strikes with zero degradation, the EMP Shield is also one of the world's strongest surge protectors, capable of withstanding over 100,000 amps.
All right, guys, that's EMP Shield. You go to empshield.com. Use promo code DAILY. When you do, you'll get $50 off of your first device. So that's one of the best discounts you're going to get online with us or anywhere, is get $50 off your first device. Of course, that device will help protect your home from electromagnetic pulses, whether it's from lightning, whether it's from a CME, from the sun, or any type of weaponry being used. It will protect anything that involves a circuit, like your circuit breakers on your home, your boat, your generator, car, anything like that. Okay, so make sure you guys do that. Use our promo code, and you'll be glad that you did. Not only will you protect your home, get a good product made here in the United States, which also helps support us here on Daily Excellence. So thank you so much for doing that this evening. All right. We're going to do a quick roll call before we get into our stuff this evening. We got John Van Bell on tonight. Thank you so much for being here on the channel. One of our moderators. We're always happy to have our moderators on tonight. And so good to have you here, John Van Bell. Tracy, good to have you here. No, I'm not Pastor Paul. I have hair. Pastor Paul's doesn't have as much hair, and he wears sunglasses, but we do support Pastor Paul over here. We do broadcast him and Mike. Try to get him up on Fridays. Sometimes it's on Saturdays, but nope, not him. Let's see. We got Susan on tonight. Thank you for being here. CPF036. Good to have you with us. Belinda Repose on with us tonight. We got Venus Sage. We got Will Napoleon. We got Texas Girl. Bent Rifle. Good to see you tonight. So good to have you guys with us tonight. Those of you watching us over on Rumble and X, welcome. You can comment. I will see your comments from where you're located tonight. So thank you guys so much for being here. All right. Let's get into our articles this evening. And let's just start with the big one, okay? The big article tonight is this one here, if I can get to come up. Hopefully it'll share correctly. Here we go. Of course, everything we look at comes from EndTimes Headlines, which is a conservative news outlet. That's what we use here. We appreciate their work that they do. And so here's what we got going on. It says ex-government researcher claims 4 alien species have been pulled from a crashed UFO. Now, before we get into this article, I want to take you over here, over on X, because not only are they talking about it, but this thing is live streamed on mainstream. Yeah. Jesse Walters is talking about this. I zoomed in too much. There you go. You can see it. Jesse Walters from Fox News. He's over here talking about this. And he's saying, whoa, researchers say dozens of crashed UFOs have been recovered with 4 different alien species on board. 2 arms, 2 legs, long tails like a lizard, 7 feet tall. Sources are too scared to talk, saying an interview could forfeit their life. This is Jesse Walters, all right, from Fox News, putting this out there on X, okay. And then here's the kind that Fox News just openly discussed, and here's the names of it: the Greys, the Nordics, the Reptilians, and the Insectoids, right? So crazy stuff here, but mainstream is reporting it, and it's all over the place. Okay, everybody's putting this out here. It's hitting everything. So just wanted to share that, letting you know that it is what is happening here. And so here we go. An ex-government researcher claims that 4 alien species have been pulled from the crashed UFOs. Now remember, we did have L.A. Marzulli on here last week. Okay, talking about this. And let's see if we can pull up the article. Give me just a second here. So even this right here, it almost like, it feels like you can't make this stuff up. All right, so you have the mantis species class, the intersectfold, which is a height of 6 to 7 feet, large compound eyes, highly agile, excellent eyesight, and telepathic abilities. You have the Greys that are 4 and 5 feet, large black-eyed, gray complexion, slender build, and advanced technology. You have the Reptilians, who are height at 6 to 8 feet, reptilian figures, highly intelligent, strong and resilient, and advanced technology. Then you have the Nordic, okay, which your species class is more of a humanoid. They are 6 to 7.5 feet height, human-like appearance, advanced intelligence, peaceful nature, highly advanced society. Okay, so this is what they're putting out there, guys. All right, we've talked about this for a long time. They're going to come up with this narrative. They're going to make these things up, and here we are. All right, Here we are. That's all I can tell you. So here's what the article has to say. It says, according to a report from the New York Post. All right, so this is the New York Post. I told you this thing has gone mainstream now. All right, so we went from having pictures. What was it, last week or the week before? It was the week before last. We going from having little pictures of dots flying over screens now. Now, 2 weeks later, they have given you 4 different species. Not only have they given you 4 different species of aliens, but now they've given you the different breeds. They've given you different species classifications, and they've given you their features, their complexion, their types of technology, their abilities, their eyesight. They've given you their height, their what kind of appearances they're going to have, okay? All right, so all of a sudden, we've got full profiles within a 2-week period from these disclosures, right? So according to a report from the New York Post, a prominent former CIA-funded scientist has made explosive claims that the United States has retrieved biological remains of 4 separate extraterrestrial species from downed, unidentified flying objects. Dr. Hal Palford, an 89-year-old quantum physicist and a longtime advisor to the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program, dropped the revelation during a Thursday appearance on Steve Beller's popular The Diary of a CEO podcast. He was joined by Dan Farah, director of the documentary Age of Disclosure. People who have been involved in recoveries have said there are at least 4 separate types, Pat Hoff stated. Now I have not had direct access to that, but I believe the people who I talked to, 4 separate types of life. Okay. Pat Hoff stopped short of describing the beings himself, but his longtime collaborator, Dr. Eric Davis, was previously identified the 4 species as greys, Nordics, insectoids, or mantides, and reptilians. All reportedly shared a basic humanoid form with 2 arms and 2 legs. Nordics and reptilians stand roughly 6 feet tall, while greys are smaller with large eyes and hairless bodies. Reptilians are described as scaly and lizard-like with tails, and insectoids resemble upright praying mantises. The claim added fuel to long-time running assertions by whistleblower, former Air Force intelligence officer David Gershon, testified before Congress in 2023 that the U.S. possesses non-human biologics recovered from multiple crash sites. Farah, whose film explores alleged crash retrieval programs, described the extreme caution surrounding the topic. I've talked off the record with some people who are involved in recoveries, he told Bartlett. They will not go on camera to do interviews. He recounted one potential witness who backed out days before filming, writing that participation would mean forfeiting my life. Okay? So, all right. So, this is what's happening here. And those of you who have followed like Paul Begley or who have followed L.A. Marzulli or Stephen Bendenune or Mike from Council of Time, you're pretty well familiar with the idea of greys and reptilians, okay? These are things that they've told you for years now that this is what would come up, this is what they're going to look like. Of course, the Nordic and the mantis or the insectoid or whatever was a little new to me. But anyway, this is the narrative. This is what they're doing. This is what they're going to push. Okay, they're going to get the world, they're going to get humanity used to these ideas, used to these classifications, so that you can identify these things on your own. But here's what's really happening, in my personal opinion, is they're going to have to explain away one of the world's largest and biggest events that's ever taken place since the day that Christ was born. They're going to have to explain away the taking away of the church. They're going to have to explain why millions of people have vanished or been removed from the earth. And it could be, okay, hypothetically putting, it could be that these beings, these entities, these fabrications, however you want to look at it, could come out and say that, yes, these individuals were removed because they were a threat to the survival of Earth, and people will buy into this lie. They will buy into this narrative, okay? We know that there's a great dissolution that's coming, right? Who's going to follow these lies? Who's going to integrate humanity with this potential idea? Who's going to foster this idea and make this thing a reality? All right. Some people theorize and state that there's a possibility that in this next disclosure, that one of these things are going to be standing behind a podium someday, being introduced to mankind, making a deal with these things. Right. I will tell you this. If you see something like this in real life, if we are introduced to actually something that is fabricated or made up like this, no, it's one of two things. Either it's the biggest hoax ever played on mankind and people are going to buy into it, or two, that it's not a person in a costume, it's a demonic entity. Okay? I'm under the belief, in my personal opinion, there are those that I've had on this channel who do not share in this one opinion I have, but I do believe, in my personal opinion, that there are no such thing as actual aliens. Okay, there's nothing that comes from Mars. There's nothing that comes from the 20th dimension in another galactic universe somewhere else. I do believe, however, that there are these things called fallen angels. Okay, there are these things called demonic entities that can take on forms at times. It's evil and it's not good. And the more that mankind gives way to witchcraft and sorcery and of calling and bringing up spirits and things like that, we give power to this type of deception. Okay, we're already beginning to see even some signs as these disclosures come out of people beginning to ask questions. Now they believe that we're not alone, that there's other life forms out there. There's people already beginning to question their own faith in Christianity. That's the whole point of doing this, right? So, yes, Genesis 6 talks about the Nephilim. We know that we've had problems with these particular entities before. There's a lot of controversy about Genesis chapter 6. Okay? Some people believe that the Nephilim came and then were destroyed during the Great Flood, but their spirit didn't go anywhere. Those who occupy the body of the Nephilim never went anywhere, but they're still roaming around the earth, not able to take in human form anymore. But some people believe that in the latter days that they will take in human form again, which is why we're getting these different types of species of so-called aliens. There is that belief and that conspiracy on that one. I'll let you guys do your own research. But anyway, this is the narrative. This is what we're being told. This is what is coming out. Like I said, Jesse Walters from Fox News was talking about this. The New York Times is reporting this now. And so, we've talked about this potential disclosure for years on this channel. A lot of people have talked about this. We've been warning you that this is coming. It is here. It has arrived. Okay. All right, let's bring it back over to my happy face. So that is a huge, in my personal opinion, a huge end times sign. In some ways, it may even be even more of a big sign than seeing like the third temple being built. Right? I mean, this is how you know that you are getting close to the very end of the age, when you're already seeing the narrative being pushed, when you're already seeing the explanation of your disappearance. Okay, think about it for a moment. You already see in this photo right here. I'm gonna bring it right back. All right, in this photo right here, you already see the explanation for your disappearance. When the Lord comes to take you away, and what many would call the rapture, even though the word rapture is not in the scripture, but the catching away or the taking away of the church, that reference is in there. When all the Christians are no longer here, there's your explanation. So when you live in a time and the narrative is already being pushed out, and you can see the reason and the answer to your disappearance, that's how you know how close we are. It doesn't get any more alarming than that. Okay, it just doesn't. And so, yeah, it's pretty crazy. It is very, very crazy to think that and to see that. So there's that particular part. And we welcome all those that are just getting on here tonight. We've been talking about some EndTimes headline news things. Let's see. We're going to our next article here. Just a second as I pull this up. We are going to talk about the next thing, which is an EndTimes event as well, and that is the food prices. All right. So we're going to pull this up. Give me just a second here, guys. All right, here we go. Let's see. So yes, inflation is becoming a big issue, and so where this particular article is talking about the impacts of inflation on tomato and beef prices pushing to new record highs. Okay, so this is what's happening here. This has also been discussed today. It says, according to a report from the Chicago Tribune, the latest consumer price data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics reveals sharp increase in everyday costs, with national gas prices climbing above $4 per gallon for the first time since 2022, and key grocery items like tomatoes and ground beef reaching all-time highs. April inflation report shows overall prices rising 0.6% for the month, pushing the year-over-year increase to 3.8%, nearly doubling the Federal Reserve's 2% target. Energy costs fueled much of the surge, accounting for more than 40% of the monthly jump as disruptions from the ongoing Iranian war rippled through the global oil market. The conflict has been Iran closed the Straits of Hormuz, a critical checkpoint for a fifth of the world's oil and gas shipments, prompting U.S. and all allied blockade that have halted much of the region's fuel exports. Crude oil stayed above $100 a barrel, driving U.S. retail gas prices up more than 50% since the beginning of the war, and diesel costs up 48%. Nationally, regular unleaded gasoline average is $4.26 per gallon in April, up 42 cents from the prior month. In Chicago, prices hit $4.45 locally and have since climbed above $5 in some spots, levels not seen in nearly 4 years. The disruption of oil production and distribution in the Middle East has sent gas prices climbing stateside. The report notes, with costs expected to persist as peace talks remain stalled, grocery staples have followed suit due to higher transportation expenses. Tomato prices leaped 19% in April to a new record of about $2.69 per pound, a 50% increase from a year ago, exacerbated by tariffs on Mexican import and elevated ship costs. Ground beef also notched a record, rising 24 cents to $6.92 per pound, aimed historically low U.S. cattle inventories and imported disruptions. Electricity rates have reached their highest in decades. While other items like milk and bread saw modest gains, eggs remained a rare bright spot, continuing to decline. So, increasing in increasing in inflation of food. Of course, we knew this was coming. We talked about this last week about the man-made, man-manufactured famine. Okay. So like in the United States, for example, I don't know how it is like in Canada or any other places around the world, because we have a lot of subscribers from different places around the world. But in the United States, for example, the idea that tomatoes would go sailing through the roof, that tomatoes would have a 50% increase in price compared to last year is absolutely insane to me, because a lot of people in the United States grow their own tomatoes. Like tomatoes is one of those things that is one of those items that you can grow on your own. Even someone who doesn't know much about gardening, or someone who doesn't even have like a large space, that may live in an apartment complex but is allowed to have a few plants on their balcony. In the United States, you know what the number one plant's usually going to be on that balcony this time of year? It's going to be a tomato plant. People love to grow tomato plants. It's a very easy plant to grow. And even some places down south, like in Florida, they actually grow there naturally. So it's a little strange, though, to me, that you would have a article that's talking about how tomatoes are reaching new records, when majority of people in the United States, especially gardening people, grow tomatoes, because tomatoes is an actual gardening staple. And when harvest time comes, guess what's the number one gardening item that's usually not just getting shared with people, but it's the one thing that people are like asking and begging for people to come and take. It's tomatoes. So it's really strange. That's how you know that this is a man-made manufactured type of thing. Like cattle prices, okay? The reason why cattle prices are high has nothing to do with what's going on in the Straits of Hormuz, okay? It has nothing to do with high oil prices. It has nothing to do with transportation. It has to do with because we don't have enough cattle in the United States, because we slaughtered them all a couple years ago. Remember that little emergency we had about 6 years ago that caused us all to have to slaughter all of those cows? And then a couple years later, we had the bird flu that went viral, and we had to slaughter all the chickens. And we had to go back and re-slaughter the cows again, okay? Because they were trying to control the beef imports, and then that's when beef went sky high, even though majority of those cows were not infected, right? They were just doing it out of precaution. This is what we call man-made. It's a man-made famine, okay? That's what's taking place. That is what has happened. It's not because of point A or point B. It's because of something else going on behind the scenes, and that's what they're doing, okay? So like Texas Girl says, I have 2 green tomatoes on the vine. Going to be a while before they're ready, but I found good non-GMO seeds. Yep. So like I said, people growing tomatoes, okay? They grow tomatoes all over the country. It makes no sense why tomatoes would be spiking to new record highs when majority of people grow their own tomatoes, or they know someone that grows their own tomatoes and are given tomatoes. It's weird, okay? It's just a really weird thing to see that, but this is what they're pushing, all right? And they want you to know that there's a shortage. They want you to know that prices are going up. They want you to freak out before you find out, okay? So, my advice, unsolicited advice, of course, during these times like this is, one, learn how to can your stuff, okay? We're in springtime, we're in summer. You can, even if you have a small piece of land, even if you're renting, in a neighborhood where you're having to rent, or you have an HOA, most of those places allow you to have a raised garden bed, okay? You can grow tons of stuff. Okay, there's a new type of growing right now. I think they call it I forgot what it's called, but you grow several things together, and each of those things actually helps the other thing that's in it. It's like you mix tomatoes and beans and squash in one shared area, and you're able to increase your yield so much more than what the recommendation of the seeds are. Which, by the way, on the packets of seeds, when you look at that, when it tells you to grow your stuff so many feet apart, that's because that's set for farmers for large fields, so that tractors and tires and stuff can get through there. You can actually grow more in smaller areas than you think, okay? But anyway, I would say grow your stuff, okay? Grow your stuff. Learn how to can. All right. Learn how to make homemade preservatives. Put your stuff in a can. Get mason jars. Boil it in the big old pot. And then you have your stuff for the winter time. There's plenty of things you can do. There's plenty of seeds out there. You can pull seeds from things that you have and save them for next year. I mean, our country used to do that. People used to do that. That was how people survived during like the Great Depression, and how they survived during these wars. And even before things were so mainstream, that's how life was. That's what you did. And you would see old photos from back in the day when people had cellars, right? They had cellars, not so much for tornadoes, okay, but they had cellars because that's where they stored their food. And if you go back, you can go on Google even now when you get off of here, and you can just type in cellars, okay? Like, not wine cellars, okay, but actual true cellars that people had back in 1930s and 40s and 1920s. They were full. I mean, these things were like brimming full of food. We would call it today, you would be called a prepper. You'd be called a hoarder if you had it like that. But that's how people did things. They were self-sufficient, all right? And you can return to that. They got us used to this system where we depend on government. We depend on big block chain stores. We depend on transportation. We depend on shipping. We depend on all these things, except we don't depend on what God gave us, and that was dirt and seeds and water. So there's my 2 cents on that. So we have aliens coming. We've got high food prices. And then let's see what else we got here. And for those of you that are just joining us right now, there's quite a few of you. We're kind of going through our headlines tonight. Alien species, we've talked about that. We just got done talking about the food and inflation. And so now we're going to talk about this surge in, let's see, give me just a second here. Now we have the Ebola virus that has made its way into the United States. Let's see some. So anyway, let's see. So, yep, we got a pandemic here with Ebola taking place. It says at least 6 Americans in the Congo exposed to the Ebola virus strain with a 25 to 50% death rate. All right, so this is taking place in the Congo. At least 6 Americans have been exposed. According to a report from the New York Times Post, at least 6 Americans working in the Democratic Republic of Congo have been exposed to a highly lethal strain of the Ebola virus aimed a rapidly worsening outbreak that has already claimed dozens of lives. The exposure occurred as the Bundage Ebola virus spreads through Central Africa, reaching major urban areas and crossed into Uganda. Sources familiar with the international aid efforts told CBS News that at least 3 Americans faced high-risk contact, with one now showing symptoms. U.S. health officials are moving swiftly to extract those potentially affected. The U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention stated on Sunday that it is coordinating the safe withdrawal of a small number of Americans who are directly affected in the outbreak areas. It remains unclear whether the individuals are still in Congo or if they have returned to the United States for quarantine or monitored elsewhere. So remember several years ago, this has actually been a while back, when there was an Ebola outbreak, they actually shipped those. There were like 3 Americans that had Ebola, and one was sent to the Center of Disease Control in Atlanta, and then I think 2 were sent to like Parkland Hospital in Dallas, where they recovered. So it looks like there's 6 of them. They may try to do something similar to that again. The overall risk to the American public and travelers remains low, the CDC emphasized, noting that no cases have reached the U.S. so far. The agency has issued travel health notices for both the Congo and Uganda and is supporting international response efforts on the ground. The World Health Organization has declared this situation as a public health emergency of international concern following a surge in cases. As of Sunday, officials reported 10 confirmed infections and 336 suspected cases in Congo, with 88 deaths. Uganda has recorded 2 confirmed cases, including 1 fatality linked to travel from Congo. This strain carries a fatal rate between 25 and 50%. No vaccine exists. The treatment is limited to supportive care for symptoms that include high fever, severe weakness, vomiting, abdominal pain, bleeding. Health authorities warn of significant uncertainties in the true scale of the outbreak, with data pointing to a potentially much higher crisis. And so I've heard rumors today, actually, and this is only rumors. Cannot confirm this, but I've heard that death rate's actually much higher, that it could actually be over the 300s, with actually 700, over 700 infected. Now, these are just rumors. I cannot verify them at all, but this is something that did come out earlier today that I had heard. But this is the official report, and this was as of yesterday, so this doesn't even include what would update from today. But like I said, I heard unofficial report, unconfirmed report, that there are actually over 300 deaths between the countries there of the Ebola virus, with over 700 potentially, allegedly affected. Okay, so that's what's going on there with the Ebola virus. Now, of course, not only do you have the Ebola virus out there too, but you also still have that Hantavirus, or the Hantavirus, going on right now too, which 41 people are now being monitored across the United States. Okay, that's just here in the United States. Remember, last time when we were only monitoring 3. Okay, they were only monitoring 3 a week ago. You can go back and watch, or 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry, you can go back and watch our broadcast from 2 weeks ago when we first brought this up. It was only 3 people. Now we got 41 people. Okay, 41 people are now being monitored across the United States for the Hantavirus. And so it says, according to a report from the EndTimes UK federal health authorities are actively tracking dozens of individuals for possible exposure to the Hantavirus following an outbreak linked to the cruise ship, the MV Hantavirus. The rare but potentially deadly virus, typically spread from contact with infectious rodents, has prompted a nationwide surveillance effort spanning from coast to coast. Health officials have placed 41 people under monitored across 12 states as they watch for early signs of this illness. Nebraska leads with 16 individuals under watch. Interesting, because Nebraska is right in the center of the country, isn't it? Followed by Georgia with 4. Washington and Kansas each report 3 cases being tracked, while Maryland, New Jersey, California, and Texas have 2 each. Single individuals under observation in Arizona, Illinois, Virginia, and Minnesota. The monitored individuals fall into 3 main categories, according to Dr. David Fitter. 18 reptile passengers are receiving care at specialized facilities in Nebraska and Georgia. 7 others returned home before the outbreak was officially identified, and 16 more are being reviewed for possible exposure to symptomatic travelers during flights. Our approach is based on risk and evidence. We're working closely with passengers and public health partners to ensure monitoring and rapid access to care if symptoms develop. Fitter stated. He added that authorities are not sure our federal quarantining authority on people. So, of course, it goes on. The article goes on to talk about how the monitoring includes daily check-ins for symptoms, fevers, muscle aches, respiratory things, and of course they're going to continue doing this and continue to what do they call that? Contact tracing. Of course, we know what what they used to do with that. So anyway, not only you have the Ebola virus taking place with 6 Americans affected with that coming our direction, but we have 41 people now being monitored for the Hantavirus. So a lot of viruses, deadly viruses in the news. Aliens, 4 different species being confirmed allegedly in the news. Tomato and beef prices are surging due to this my personal opinion, man-made famine that they're trying to do taking place right now. And so if that wasn't enough, for those of you that are coming on, now we're going to talk about the coming asteroid, right? There's an asteroid in the news. But probably a good thing. This is probably the best news out of all of it because it doesn't really look like it's going to be too much of a threat. Oh, just a second here. Okay. Asteroid to pass near Earth closer than the moon on Monday. Well, that was yesterday. So this thing's already passed. But it says, according to a report to BBC Sky Night Magazine, a newly detected near-Earth asteroid roughly the size of a basketball court is approaching our planet at an exceptionally close flyby this Monday, passing well within inside the moon's orbit, but posing no collision risk. Astronomers discovered the object designated 2026 JH2 just days ago on May 10th, 2026 by the Mount Lemmon survey in Arizona. The asteroid measures an estimate 16 to 35 meters or 50 to 115 feet across, compared in scale to roughly 20 meters, the meter that exploded over Russia in 2013. On Monday, May 18th, 2026, which was just yesterday, the 2026 JH2 will reach its closest point to Earth, approximately 90,000 kilometers or 56,000 miles. This distance represents less than a quarter of the average, which is generally 239,000 miles separating Earth from the moon, though it remains safely beyond the orbit of its geostationary satellites. Okay. So anyway, close call, good sized asteroid, went by us, gave us a bit of a buzz cut, but it was a close one. It was very close, and we've had a lot of these near misses. And the reason why I bring this up, because when you do look at EndTimes prophecy and you look at EndTimes eschatology, you see that in the book of Revelation that there will be two deep impacts made to Earth during that time. And so we keep seeing these things getting closer and closer. It seems like every year we have one or two that just kind of break the record and get just a little closer each time. And so there's that aspect of that particular scenario there. Okay. Now let's see what else we got going on. So we have the asteroids there. We've talked about that. Let me bring it back over here to me. Other things that are taking place in the news that I don't have time to read tonight, but it's this, is oil crisis could spiral into a full-blown global catastrophe within 30 days. According to an economist, it says, according to the Market Watch, escalating supply disruptions from ongoing conflict involving the U.S., Israel, and Iran are rapidly draining global crude stockpiles, raising fears of severe energy shortage that could escalate to a full-blown catastrophe within weeks. So they're warning of that particular scenario that could take place. Part of the reason why gas prices are so high right now. Oil prices, and I'm not talking about the barrels of oil, I'm talking about the oil that you buy in stores. We're talking about that those prices could increase significantly in the days to come if things don't start making a turn. Okay, and so a lot of different things taking place. I'll leave you guys with this article here tonight as well. It says humanity faces an uncertain fate as experts brace for the arrival of superintelligence AI. Yes, not just AI, not just artificial intelligence, but super intelligence. So would it be like SAI? According to a report from the Telegraph, even Donald Trump even President Donald Trump, along a champion of rapid artificial intelligence expansion, is expressing growing concern that advanced AI systems could soon surpass the threatened humanity. A U.S. president who has aggressively pushed AI development across the economy and challenged regulatory hurdles at state and international levels now appears to be signaling a shift aimed at escalating warnings about superintelligence and the looming possibility of technological singularity. Now, remember, we talked about this probably about 3 or 4 months ago. We talked about that new program that was AI based that they were very worried about. That was very significant. That was very significant, and they were wanting people to stop it because of its facial recognition software, and it essentially was putting everybody's information out there, and unfairly, so to speak, was even unfairly accusing people of crimes. If you guys remember that. So this is kind of on that same wavelength. It said on Wednesday, Recursive Superintelligence, a UK-US startup funded by former researchers from Google and OpenAI, announced that it had raised $650 million to accelerate work towards systems that could dramatically outpace human capabilities. The funding underscores the intense global race, even as alarms intensify. Okay, so they're trying to push the limits on AI, even try to push it to a place where it goes beyond human capabilities, which is very dangerous, because if they're able to figure out how AI can be smarter than mankind, then that means we can't control it. And that means if something happens, we can't reverse it, we can't fix it, because it would technically be smarter than us. Now, my question is, and this is always the question that I raise, is who controls it? All right, where does the knowledge come from? And how does that knowledge grow if mankind's not growing that knowledge? How does AI, the super intelligent AI, become smarter than mankind and outpace mankind, and mankind can't go back and reverse it? So how does that happen? How does that who's controlling this thing? Because obviously, if it goes beyond mankind's capabilities, it's not mankind. It has to be somebody, right? So you can kind of see the end time narrative on this. You can kind of see how the man of perdition or the Antichrist or this beast system would be controlling this thing, because it's something that's beyond mankind, right? It's something that's not mortal but immortal, right? So, and people are fearing it, but we know we're heading this direction. Scripture tells us that we're heading this direction when you read it and you study it. So a lot going on around us in the news today, and these EndTimes headlines. And like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, it almost feels like it's a sci-fi movie that we're living in these days, but it's not. This is reality. This is what's happening, and so that's why we do these reports on Tuesday nights to kind of go through the news and things that have taken place in the last several days, so that you are in the know, and so that you guys can understand where we're at and how close we are. And we're right there, guys. We're right there on the edge of eternity. We're right there on the on this massive changing field, and things are changing fast. Humanity is changing fast. The world is changing fast. We're moving in a direction, and the train has left the station. The toothpaste is out of the tube. Okay, you can't put it back in. That's where we're at. So. But remember, those of us who are saved in Christ, we have the blood of Jesus. We're redeemed by grace. We have nothing to fear. Okay, we serve a God that knew these things that were going to come. We serve a God that purposely placed you and I in this time, in this season, and gave us the ability to handle the things that are going to come. Gave us the answers that we need to give out when the questions come, and most importantly, gave us the ability to be able to warn others, and to have the grace that is needed to live in this hour that we're in. And so for us, we have nothing to fear. We know where this story ends. We know how this story ends, and we know what's to come. And for us, it's a great ending. For us, there's good news awaits. But for those of you who are not Christians, it says this is a scary time. It really is. And you have reason to be afraid. But if you would just take the opportunity, come to know Jesus Christ, receive his gift of salvation, make heaven your home, you'll see how this thing turns out. And when you open up the book of Revelation, you look at Matthew 24, you look at Luke 21, it shows you the plan. It shows you what's coming. It shows you the days that we're in, because everything that it's speaking about, it's happening now, okay? But it tells you also what happens when this is over. And that's the exciting time. That's the exciting time, okay? So fear not. What does the scripture tell us when we begin to see all these things transpire? What do? We look up, for we know that our redemption draw nigh. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the broadcast this evening. I ended a little bit early tonight, but thank you for being here. We should be live with you guys tomorrow night at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for Pastor Talk with myself and Pastor Danae. We'll be on tomorrow night for devotional and a time of prayer and just a good family night on Wednesday night. Tonight you can go over to DE Studios at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Catch a rebroadcast from COT. Our moderators will be there to help you out over there on the chat room. And of course, Thursday night we will upload this week's broadcast from COT for you for viewing over the weekend, which you can catch Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night at 10 p.m. We'll be back with you guys next Tuesday night with another EndTimes news update for you to catch. Please, if you like this content, and you want to see more of it, please give us a like, share, thumbs up, subscribe to all of our channels. Go into the links below. Check us out over on Patreon. Check us out over on X and over on DE Studios. We have a lot of different places for you guys to check out. So with that being said, God bless you. Have a great evening. Remember, you may be the only Jesus someone sees this week, so please keep a smile on your face. Have a good night, everyone.